Hey, Warrior Saints, good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to our Crucifixional live stream. Father Chris here. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. You know, a few years ago, many years ago actually, there was a fabulous basketball player named Dennis Rodman. And for those who know Rodman, you know, he started with or those who don't know, he started with the Pistons, and then he traveled the league a little bit. He played with Jordan on the Bulls. He was in San Antonio. He was even a Laker in LA for a season or two. And he was a rebounding machine. But he became famous after he dated Madonna. So the famous rock singer Madonna. They dated for a little while, and as soon as that relationship ended, he started dyeing his hair multiple colors. He got tattoos all over his body, piercings in his nose, his earrings connected to his eyebrows. I mean, like, he just became a spectacle, really. And he was polarizing, because if he was on your team, you loved him, because nobody was a better rebounder probably ever than Dennis Rodman. He would fight and scrap to get that ball anytime somebody missed a shot. He won numerous rebounding titles. I mean, year after year, if he was on your team, you're like, he makes me uncomfortable, but I love him because he gets the ball for my team. If he wasn't on your team, you hated him because he got the ball always for the other guys. And it was easy to like attack him. Oh, look at this guy's hair's yellow. Now it's blue. Now it's rainbow color. Now it's this. And oh, look at the tattoos and all the rings. And he would say outlandish things, and he became a spectacle and all this kind of stuff. But what dawned on me during the era of Rodman, the post-Detroit Pistons era, was that he was the conversation of everything, the topic of every conversation. Like, he was always in the news. People were always talking about him, if he said this, if he said that. And it hit me what he had done, and I think he learned it from Madonna, because she had done the same even before him, was he became a polarizing figure. And by putting or drawing a line in the sand, he was able to divide two groups of people, and he became the center of attention, the focus of everything. I think you and I both know that in our world in which we live today, everything seems to be so damn polarizing. Everything is a line drawn in the sand. I mean, like, if you think about, who are the most famous of the radio disc jockeys type? I mean, Howard Stern, right? Rush Limbaugh. I mean, there are other big ones, but those two guys they're monsters in the field. I mean, they're huge. And how were they huge? Because they were divisive. So Howard Stern said things that were not traditional, against family values. He cursed. He talked about sex and drugs, and he was just like outlandish. Rush Limbaugh, was extremely conservative and would bash people on the other side of the aisle, and he would say some outlandish things, and and they divided people. People loved them. Goes even further. Think about the most popular TV show on ESPN. So ESPN, as you know, is the sports network. They're supposed to just tell you what happens in sports and give you highlights. Their most popular show is something that is hosted by a guy named Stephen A. Smith, who is so obnoxious. He's the most outlandish of the bunch. He put forth a statement, and he does so in a way that just grates on your nerves. But it's the number one show on ESPN. I think that's actually his plan. Go further. I mean, think about what's happening in the world today. I mean, former President Trump was very polarizing, maybe one of the best at doing so in history. So much so that he's no longer president, and people are still talking about him. They also talk about President Biden in polarity, in polarizing fashions. Some people hate now what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia and that whole mess. Some people love President Putin. Some people hate Putin. Like, everything is polarizing. And now you see it even fall down into your social feeds, where someone who may be a friend on social media, or a friend, someone who you may or may not be very close with, posts something that you agree with, I love him, or posts something you disagree with, I hate him. And we become this, like, monster. I'm just going to say it. We become monstrous. We become people who are addicted to the polarity, right? This division. And it has fueled our society for the last at least 5 years, let's just say, maybe longer. As warrior saints, we are not supposed to be divisive. We're supposed to avoid division. It does not mean, Father Chris is not saying that we don't stand up for truth. I am not saying that we don't speak honest words. But, like, why are you getting involved in this silly divisiveness? Why do you it's like an unquenchable thirst that some of us have to watch the Fox News and the CNNs and, all those guys. Those guys are super polarizing, right? The pundits on the right and the left side. All they do is sit there at at a desk and you just see their head and all they do is bash the other guy. And if you agree with them, you're like, yeah. And if you disagree with them, you're like, what a jerk. And then you flip to your guy or your gal who you like. And it's just, we've begun to drink in gallons the Kool-Aid of polarity, of division. And I got to be honest with you, now I'm going to confess my own sins. As we try to grow this ministry, I mean, we're working hard as Warrior Saints. Greg and I and our full team are here like every day, and we want to grow so that we can spread the gospel to as many people as possible. And we've been wrestling with it. We have been wrestling with it. Why don't we get polarizing? That's the only way, because that's what Rodman did and what Madonna did and what Tucker Carlson does and what Rush Limbaugh did and what President Biden does, and they're all polarizing, so let's be polarizing, and then we'll piss some people off, but then the audience will grow, and then hopefully the gospel will trickle down and everybody will, embrace that, and the world will be a better place. I mean, like, that's the ideas that I've been wrestling with, and thank God, Greg has put me in my place on more than one occasion, like, dude, that is not the gospel. We are not here to divide, we are here to unite. And in truth, there are some times and some stands that must be taken. Truth is truth, and we have to defend that. But to get into the fray, to be polarizing just for the sake of polarity, this is contra the scripture, contra God's will. So I'm going to read to you, there are two verses we're going to focus on this week. One from the epistle to Titus, which is not oft read, but beautiful letter, and the other from St. Paul's great masterpiece to the Romans. And Greg, he's going to throw these on the screen for you here in just a moment. You see in Titus 3, as for a person, listen to the words, as for a person who stirs up division, after warning him once or twice, have nothing more to do with him, right? Like, he's telling us, bro, don't get involved in that. Like, if you see somebody who's being divisive and they're stirring the pot, like, in love, say, bro, you're stirring the pot. What are you doing, right? After a while, if it just continues, that's their modus operandi. Get moving, right? Get out of there. You don't want any part of that kind of stuff because you're going to get sucked into that ether, right? I mean, it's the vortex of polarity. You're going to be sucked into it with them. It's unavoidable, right? St. Paul goes even further, and like I said, his magnus opus, right, is his Romans. He says in chapter 16, I appeal to you, brothers. Listen to the words. I appeal to you, brothers, to watch out for those who cause divisions. Watch out for them. He's telling you, be on your guard. Look so you can see who's doing what. Those who cause divisions and create obstacles to the faith or to the doctrine you've been taught, avoid them, right? So St. Paul is very clearly giving us a message to divert ourselves and our attention and to be vigilant and what's the word I'm looking for? Vigilant is the word, but to be, discerning, looking, observant for those who are by design being polarous, divisive maybe, but who are creating this polarity, and get your butt away from them, right? Don't get involved in that, which is ultimately what Paul is saying is, I'm calling you to unity, right? In the next couple of days, we're going to talk about polarity in our lives, and we'll start with polarity in the church, which is a powerful thing for Warrior Saints because that's where we dedicate our lives. But take the message for this week that you are not, as a Warrior Saint, you are not supposed to get involved in polarity and divisiveness. We speak truth, and sometimes that may divide, but we are not looking for divisiveness, polarity, just for the sake of it, right? It is against God's instructions. To be a Warrior Saint means we need to be harbingers of unity and to bring forth love between people, even when we don't agree with people, right? We're going to help you do that when you visit warriorsaints.org and subscribe to the Way of the Warrior Saint. We have tons of lessons about unity and harmony and peace, and we even have a series in there called Conquering the Divide, which was the great divide during the COVID era and the presidential election, the last cycle. I mean, everybody was split all over the place. We're in these series, we are helping guide ourselves and also our Warrior Saints to really find a mature way to overcome the divide, to stop the division. We'll be back tomorrow. We love you, beautiful people. Until then, keep walking in the way of the Warrior Saint.